At this time, Jagannath Das Babaji, who was the spiritual master of his father, he came from Vrindavan to Navadvip, and Jagannath Das Babaji, seeing Srila Bhakti Siddhanta Saraswati, how learned he was, and what an incredible professor he was of astrology, he asked him to make the Vaishnav calendar with all of the dates of the previous acharyas' appearances, disappearances, all of the dates of the festivals for the great incarnations of Lord Krishna. The Vaishnav calendar that we follow to this very day on the order of Jagannath Das Babaji was originally produced by Srila Bhakti Siddhanta Saraswati Thakur. And one time his father was invited to a conference. It was a very important conference for the whole Vaishnav world, because at that time India throughout the land was victimized by the selfish motivations of people who were in high positions within society. According to the scriptures, the Varnashram system is by one's guna and karma. Chatu Varnamayastristam guna karma vibhagasha. That means according to the qualities you have and according to the work you perform, you act according to that occupation. But it had become degraded to the standard that to be a Brahmin meant you are born in a Brahmin family. And the Brahmins of the time who were ruling the society religiously, they were exclaiming that Bhakti Vinod Thakur and the pure Vaishnavas, their teachings, were against the Siddhanta of the Vedas. Because the Vedas teach, if you are born in a Shudra family or lower, if you are devoted to God, if you are a Vaishnav, you're higher than a Brahmin. If you know the science of Krishna, it doesn't matter where you're born or who you're born and what body you're born, you can be a spiritual master for the whole world. But they were saying, unless you're born Brahmin, you cannot wear this 2-paisa thread. Unless you're born a Brahmin, you cannot teach another Brahmin. But Bhakti Vinod Thakur saw. Shyamananda Goswami was not a Brahmin, but Rasikananda was from the highest Brahmin caste, and he took initiation from him. Ganga Narayan, Ram Krishna, they were of very high-class Brahmin families, and they took Diksha from Narottam Das Thakur. So there was a big battle going on, and this conference was to once and for all settle this dispute. And Bhakti Vinod Thakur, the most learned and empowered acharya at the time, was asked to speak. And the great Vaishnavas were depending on him. The leader of the Radha Raman temple in Vrindavan, Madhusudan Goswami, the leader of Shyamananda Goswami Sampradaya in Orissa, they were depending on him. You must come. But Bhakti Vinod was very sick. He had high fever, and he could not come. So he was calling out, is there not any Vaishnav anywhere in the world who can put down these degraded rascals who are degrading our whole Vedic civilization with their selfish motivations? Because such people, their being Brahmins was not to elevate the masses in spirituality. It was simply to make money. They had no good qualities, but they had arranged society that if you performed sins, the only way to atone for the sin is to give them money for them to perform puja. They didn't teach you how to give up sin. They taught you how to pay them when you do. They were being adored, respecting, and making tons of money. And then there was the Goswami class, who were born in certain seminal lines from previous pujaris, who were the servants of Goswamis. And they were keeping their deities simply to make money. Many of them were atheists. They didn't even believe. They just saw the deity as a piece of stone, but because it's a popular stone, because it's been around for hundreds of years and worshipped by so many great souls of the past, everyone will come and give donations. So the Goswamis and the Smarta Brahmins, they were preaching against the Vaishnavas. So Bhakti Siddhanta heard his father calling out, and he wrote a paper explaining what is a Vaishnava and what is a Brahmin. And what is the relationship? According to Shastra. And when Bhakti Vinod Thakur read that paper, he became ecstatically blissful. He said, now the Lord has sent his messenger. Now all irreligion and all cheating will be dispelled, destroyed by this empowered soul. So Bhakti Siddhanta went to Midnapur, and at that conference, first the Brahmins began to speak. And they were explaining how only if you are so fortunate due to previous births of so many pious activities can you be born in a Brahmin family. And only such a birth can make you glorious and worthy of the spiritual world. What to speak of teaching others, Vedas. No one else should touch Vedas. And then the Vaishnavas asked Bhakti Siddhanta Saraswati to kindly speak. And he went, took his elevated position, and he began to speak. And the first half of his lecture was just glorifying Brahmins. And all of his enemies were very happy. They were so satisfied, thinking, oh, he's on our side. He's the leader of them, but he's on our side. And as he was glorifying the Brahmins, they were becoming more and more and more and more and more pleased. And then he began to explain, what is a Brahmin? And then their hearts were broken, their minds were cracked. And he established that a Vaishnava is one who surrenders to Krishna. Yari de katari kaha Krishna upadesha maragoy guru hartare desh. Kiba vipra kiba nyasi sudha kebenai. Je Krishna tattva veta say guru hoy. That Lord Chaitanya explained, whether you are a sannyasi or a shudra, doesn't matter. If you know the science of Krishna, you can be guru for the whole world. And that everyone has the power, if they just hear the message sincerely and repeat it and live by those principles of being accepted as a Brahmin, and more than a Brahmin, being accepted as a pure devotee of the Lord. And he explained through so much scripture and so much evidence that after he finished, there was an uproar of applause by the innocent people, and the Brahmins were silent, the caste Brahmins. And then after that, there was 3 days of debate amongst everyone. And anyone who rose a word against what Bhakti Siddhanta Saraswati said, he just cut them to pieces, all their arguments. And at the end of the conference, he spoke for 2 hours, and he invited any challenges. And not a single person could speak a word. At that time, the Vaishnavas were dancing in ecstasy. The innocent general people were just applauding and just calling out the glories of Srila Bhakti Siddhanta Saraswati, and the caste Brahmins, hiding their faces, ran from the scene. And the people loved him so much, there were thousands of people there. They all wanted to take the dust from his lotus feet, but he would not allow people to touch his feet. But there were guards, there were police there, and they were thinking it was a riot. It would be a riot if they didn't get the dust from his feet. They forcibly took his feet and put it in a bucket of water. And then they went out to the crowd and started throwing the water on everyone's heads, and everyone was satisfied. And throughout the whole Vaishnava world at that time, Srila Bhakti Siddhanta Saraswati, whose name was at that time Siddhanta Saraswati, he was declared to be the greatest defender of the highest truths of the Shastras. Srila Bhakti Siddhanta Saraswati was helping his father in so many wonderful ways. At one time he was living in Jagannath Puri with his father. And the most famous person in Jagannath Puri amongst Gaudiya Vaishnavas was a man named Radharaman Charan Babaji. And he had tens and thousands of disciples. But even he would come to Siddhanta Saraswati Thakur's lectures. But he was inventing different mantras. And he was also sometimes dressing his followers up, men followers, as gopis. And there's a famous mantra he made up. Nitai Gaur Radhe Shyam Hare Krishna Hare Ram. And Bhakti Vinod Thakur and Bhakti Siddhanta, they were saying, this is not a good mantra. It's mixing different rasas. It's a concoction. It might be very melodious and it might sound very nice, but it is not approved by our philosophy or by our acharyas. And this dressing followers up as gopis is not also. So in this way, they told Radharaman Charan, you should stop doing these things, it is not proper. But he was very proud. He had many followers, and he did not want to admit his mistake, so he continued. So Bhakti Siddhanta Saraswati and Bhakti Vinod Thakur began to preach against these discrepancies. He was what is called a sahajya. Sahajya means one who takes everything very cheaply. And in the name of devotees, there are many, many sahajyas. They imitate ecstatic symptoms. They actually learn by practice, just like movie actresses and movie actors. They also can do this. If you practice, you can do so many things. Where during kirtan, they cry, and tears flow, and they start trembling, and they roll on the floor, and they howl. And then everyone starts giving them money and worshiping them as being great, great bhaktas in ecstatic love. And other sahajyas, they teach that Krishna had Ras Leela with gopis. And I am your guru, I am Krishna's representative, and you are a young girl, so you should have Ras Leela with me. This is still going on. In fact, most of Vrindavan and these holy places, this is what is going on in the names of Babajis. It was the commonplace, illicit activities in the name of self-realization. At one time, this Babaji came before Bhakti Vinod Thakur. And Bhakti Vinod was polite to this person. And Bhakti Siddhanta Saraswati, who was a young man, he was there, and he completely ignored him. Everyone is offering obeisances to this Babaji. Everyone is worshipping him. Bhakti Siddhanta would not look at him. So he asked Bhakti Vinod, why your son doesn't even look at me? And Bhakti Vinod looked at this Babaji very honestly and straightforward. He said, because my son hates sahajyas. So he never came back. Of course, the great souls don't hate anyone. They love everyone. But they hate injustice. They hate that principle which cheats people from understanding real truth. They hate the principle of exploitation. They may love the person who's exploiting because the soul within everyone's heart is pure. But they hate the disease because it is causing so much harm and so much illusion, and is the cause of the repetition of birth and death.
You were listening to Radhanath Swami on thesacredconnect.com.